So happy new year. We finally made it into 2021, and today I want to talk about some sewing behaviours, positive ones that we can take forward into this coming year that will help us not only gain confidence, be positive and increase our productivity within sewing. So whether you are someone who's never picked up a sewing machine, perhaps you just got one for Christmas and you want to give it a go, but you don't know where to start, or you're someone who's been sewing for years, these tips will really help you, because let's face it, we all face overwhelm at times. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first positive sewing behaviour that I want to offer you as an option for 2021 is to only buy what you need. So I've touched on this in other videos before, but we all have habits of building a stash, maybe a fabric, patterns, notions, you name it. We accumulate all this stuff, and I am the first one to hold my hands up about this. We build up all this stuff and then there's so much choice that we don't know where to start. So moving into 2021, I for one am only going to buy what I actually need for the projects that I'm taking on. Gone are the days where I buy lots of cheap fabrics or lots of cheap patterns or lots of cheap anything. I am just going to save my pennies for when I really need stuff. So if you do this, it will reduce your overwhelm. You'll be able to get straight into your project. It will reduce waste by buying things that you don't need, that you either have to give to a charity shop or sell on at a later date. And you're going to save money, and who doesn't need to save money? If you want to know more about this kind of thing, then check out my video, The Dumbest Purchases That I've Made in Sewing. So the next healthy sewing behaviour I want to share with you that I think will really help your sewing is start and finish one project at a time. I don't know about you, but I am like a magpie when I see a new pattern. People are releasing new patterns left, right and centre, and I fall in love with them and I buy them, and then I've accumulated all these patterns that I just haven't used. So moving forward, I am not going to be doing that. As I mentioned in the last point, I'm only buying what I need for a project at the time, and I'm only going to be doing one project. Because let's face it, I haven't got 10 pairs of hands, have I? I can't do lots of projects in one go. So I'm just going to focus on one project, and that will help me, as I say, keep focused until the end of the project. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had 2 or 3 projects on the go, you get a little bit bored with the first one, move on to another one, and then you don't go back to the first one because you've lost focus? And so that's what I want to avoid in 2021 by just focusing on one pattern. Now, saying that, I do have my capsule wardrobe coming up, which is a series of patterns. But outside of that, I will be focusing on just one pattern at a time. And actually, even when I'm sewing up my capsule, I will be just like not thinking about the other patterns and just focusing on what I'm making there and then. That way it's going to reduce the likelihood that you'll abandon the pattern or the actual garment that you're making and stop waste of fabric. You won't lose interest in your project because you're going to finish it a lot sooner than you would have otherwise. And if you're anything like me and your weight fluctuates up and down, by the time you finish it, because you're finishing it a lot quicker, the garment's still going to fit you and you'll get some wear out of it. I don't know about you, are you with me? Because that is what I'm going to be doing this year. So the third healthy sewing behaviour for you to take into 2021 is to practice techniques. And this is more for the newbies rather than the experienced people. But it's something I didn't do when I started to sew, and it was recommended to me. It was recommended to me by a number of different people, but I was too eager to have a finished garment. If I'd taken the time to practice techniques on scrap fabric before I dived in to the fabric that I love, I would have had a much better final garment. Perhaps I would have sewed a bit slower because, you know, it's going to hold you back a little bit. But actually it's not, because it's going to speed up your progress and you will get better at sewing a lot quicker. And if you do this, it's going to give you a better experience while you're sewing, and then you're going to gain confidence in the skills that you're developing. And that's a win-win in my book. I don't see how that can be a bad thing. Lots of practice of your techniques before you dive into your fashion fabric. So I just want to take a moment to ask you that if you are enjoying this video, you hit that like button and you subscribe down below, and leave me a comment and let me know what's the best healthy sewing behaviour tip that you could offer someone, so we could all learn from each other and get some value out of this video. So let's get on with it. So the next tip I'm going to offer you is to measure yourself every single time you start a new garment. Now this might seem a bit excessive if you know your measurements and they don't change, but if you fluctuate and you don't do this, you might be disappointed. Imagine spending a week on a garment and then it doesn't fit you because your measurements have changed. That would be absolutely devastating. I don't know about you, but I have this feeling, well, it's not a feeling, it's just something, it's sort of subconscious. My body and how my body looks and how the measurements and everything, it just seems very separate from the actual sewing, almost inconsequential. And I am going to touch on that more in a video next week, so do stay tuned for that. But suffice to say, it's really important that you take your measurements every time you're starting a new project, and this will avoid disaster. It really will. I cannot emphasize enough. Even if you only put on or take off half an inch, that can be a massive difference in your final garment and how it fits. Also, if you know your specific measurements, your up-to-date measurements, when you look at the pattern, you can make a really informed choice about which size you need to make. And also when you're making your toile or your practice garment, working out the fit, then you're going to have less work to make it fit you as it should. Just remember that your body is yours, it's unique to you. No pattern can design specifically for you unless they have your measurements, and they want to reach lots of people, so their block is just a generic block. You're a specific size and shape, so you've got all the information you need on your body. All you've got to do is take your measurements. It's as easy as that. So the next tip is to face your fear and do it anyway. I hear this a lot. I get a lot of comments and I see it in the groups on Facebook as well. People are scared to sew, whether that is because they've never used a sewing machine before, or a serger perhaps, or they don't know how to read a pattern, or they don't know how to, they just don't feel confident with specific techniques, maybe zips or buttonholes, for example. My advice to you is you will not learn by avoiding it. And I know because I've been there. I avoided buttonholes for the longest time, but I'm okay with them now because eventually I just started doing them. My buttonholes would go wrong, and it was just about getting to know my machine, how it behaves, and being able to manipulate it. But I never would have learnt that if I didn't do it. And now I'm okay with buttonholes. Actually, some of you called me out last time because I was going on about how great buttonholes were, and previously all I'd been saying is I can't do buttonholes, I can't do buttonholes. It's because I finally gave in and practiced them, and I became more at ease with them. Now, buttonholes can be temperamental depending on your machine, but the more you get to know your machine, the more you will be able to feel confident in doing those techniques. If you do this, it'll give you lots of confidence. It will increase your skill base because you're learning more and more. And it's going to open up choices for what you can make in the future. Because if at the beginning you're just making a garment that's maybe a shift dress with a dart, and that's the only technique, maybe the neckline as well. If you then put a zip in it or pockets on it, you're learning new skills, and you can build on those skills in future garments. The next tip to share with you is to learn one new thing with each garment you make. So if you rush in and try to learn everything all at once, it is going to feel overwhelming, and you might even give up sewing, which would be a huge shame. I can't imagine what I would have missed out on if I'd given up sewing. For example, I wouldn't have this channel, I wouldn't be chatting to you, but I wouldn't have that love of sewing that I so love now. So with each project, choose your project strategically. Look at the techniques and the things that you can learn with that project. Is it something you know how to do? Is it something outside of your skill set or something you want to learn? So if you build on your skill set one garment at a time, before you know it, you're going to have loads more skills under your belt. It's going to give you a huge sense of achievement, a huge sense of pride, and you'll have those skills for life. So as with all of these tips, the more you do this, the more you're going to feel confident, and it's going to make sewing in the future a lot easier, and that's going to feel like a more pleasurable experience. So just a couple left to talk to you about, and the next one is to learn your personal style. This is something I touched on my capsule wardrobe video. It's also something I'll touch on again when I continue those videos shortly. But you've got to know your personal style. I think, and I'm the guiltiest one here of doing this, as I mentioned before, you know, I see the pretty patterns, I want to make all the things, and I don't really stand and assess whether it's right for me. Is it right for me? You know, is it my style? Am I going to wear it? It's all good and well making a gorgeous garment, but if you've got nowhere to wear it, or it's not your style, it's going to be wasted talent, fabric, time, everything. So take the time to learn your style. What suits you? What are you likely to wear? What do you feel confident and comfortable in? Don't worry about trends or anything like that. Think about you and your lifestyle and make sure that you're going to wear the garments that you're going to make. So if you do all of that, you're going to be happier with your end product, you're going to be more likely to wear it, and you're going to feel more confident in yourself. So my next tip, and it's probably the most important tip, if you don't take anything else from my video, do take this, and that is to appreciate what you have. So over the last 5 years or so, we've seen the industry blossom. It's fantastic because lots of independent people have got their own companies now and they're flourishing, and it's fantastic. But on the consumer side of it, we see all these products, pretty shiny products, whether that's fabric patterns, notions, what have you, that we want to buy, and sometimes we can't afford it. And we see someone else maybe doing a massive fabric haul, or they've bought the snazziest computer, and we feel bad because we can't afford that. So we're only going to be happy within ourselves if we are happy with what we've got. This is something that I have to continuously learn. It's something that I'm learning with each day that goes on, that actually it doesn't solve anything. I just recently got a new phone. It's the new iPhone, the iPhone 12, and that's, my phone died, so I needed to get a new one. And I got the snazziest one, and it was brilliant the day I got it. So excited, the dopamine levels are going. But after 12 hours or so, I'm like, what can I do with my phone now? You know, it's pretty, but what can I do with it? Actually, it's really good because it's got a lovely camera on it. But you get my point, is that we want we have like this instant gratification of getting the nice things. But actually, sometimes we don't need that. You would have seen that in my video where I talked about the smartest sewing purchases I've made and the dumbest ones, where I just talked about, you know, we don't actually need all this stuff. What is it they say? They say comparison is the thief of joy, and it is so, so true. Anyone who's ever been on Instagram will be able to tell you that. So the only person you should be comparing yourself with is yourself. And I do firmly believe that, and that is a healthy behaviour, not just in sewing, but in general life, that I want to take forward in 2021. That, you know, am I doing better than I was doing previously? That's the only thing I should be comparing. Because, you know, we don't know other people's situations. They might have had no money for a million years and then got some inheritance and bought themselves a lovely machine. But we don't know that. So comparing is the thief of joy. We're not going to have a positive outcome by doing that. Also, when we appreciate what we have, it reduces spending. So this goes back to my very first point where I talked about just use what you have. But the most important thing of appreciating what you have is you're going to be happier within yourself. And that has got to be the whole aim of 2021, surely, whether that's in sewing or in life in general. So I hope you like these tips and you got value from them. Do hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment and a like. If there's anyone you think would benefit from this video, do feel free to share it out. If you'd like to support my channel further, I do have a Ko-fi account. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye for now.